My name's Nick Romano. I'm a shamus, a private dick. You look like a good Joe who only wants to spend Christmas Eve with the kids. Once a long time ago I would have done the same, but not since that Christmas of '38. I look at the holidays different now. There's always something out there wanting to ruin it, and I have to stop them. Why me, you ask? Let me tell you a little story. I've been a private detective for 16 years, and I have seen it all in my time, but this one took the cake. This little caper happened 10 years ago, December 1938, on a cold, windy night, just like this one. Things were slow at the time of the year. I had just finished up on a divorce case. Yeah, those are the worst. Very lucrative, but they utterly destroy your faith in humanity. Anyway, I was alone in the office near the end of the day, and it was already dark, and I was getting ready to close up when I get a knock on the door. "Come on in, it's open." The door opens. I'm hoping for a gorgeous blonde with legs up to her keister, but no. In comes this strange little guy with slicked down hair, and when I say little, I mean really little. I thought he was a midget at first. He looked to be about 3.5 feet tall.
"Mr. Romano, I presume."
His accent was a little strange, sounded German, but I couldn't quite be sure. "Sure, that's me. Why don't you park yourself down and you can tell me what you want."
"Thank you."
With surprising grace, he hopped up onto the chair opposite my desk, and I thought to myself, oh, this should be a doozy.
"May I say you come highly recommended from mutual acquaintances as a man who can, or how shall I put it, get the job done. My name is Kurt Kleinerman, and I am in the employ of a very important gentleman who wishes to remain, shall we say, anonymous."
"No problem. What's the job?"
"There's a certain valuable object that was supposed to be delivered to my employer this morning. It was not, and we have not heard from the person who was to deliver it."
"And you want me to find him and recover said object?"
"Precisely. The recovery must be done quickly, confidentially, and without involving the local authorities."
"How quick are we talking about?"
"It is vital that the object be delivered to my employer no later than Christmas Eve."
"That only gives me 24 hours.
"My employer is prepared to pay $10,000 for your services with, how would you say it, no questions asked."
Now, 10 G's is quite a haul for a job back then. It still is. It would have made for a very green Christmas, but that little voice in the back of my mind said, "Nick, this is too good to be on the up and up." As usual, I didn't listen to that little voice, but by the end of the caper, I wish I had. "All right, I'll take the job. How big is this thing?"
"Oh, not large. It is a hollow silver sphere, 5 centimeters in diameter, with 4 elliptical openings cut into it. Inside that sphere is a smaller solid sphere, 1 centimeter in diameter."
Sounds like a jingle bell.
Yes, you could call it that. Here is the address of the person who was to deliver the object.
I looked at it. Had the name of Henry Jacoby and the address of a building on the west side of town. You want me to break in?
That will not be necessary. The building is owned by my employer. Here is the key.
Seems like an awful easy job for 10 grand. What's the catch?
We are not sure the object is still there. If it isn't, it still must be located and delivered in the time required. There must be no delays. This is a number you can reach me at 24 hours a day. Call me when you have recovered my employer's property, and I will give you further instructions.
With that, he hopped off the chair and walked to the door.
Good evening, Mr. Romano. I hope to hear news from you very soon.
He opened the door and left. I examined the card. It was on expensive paper with good quality printing and Gothic lettering. Just read Kurt Kleineman and a local number. There was something else about it. I held it up to my nose. Smelled like fruitcake. Well, I headed to the address right after the little guy left. It was a run-down 2-story building with an appliance and toy repair shop on the street level with an apartment above. Typical building for that part of town. The whole place was dark and the shop appeared closed. I tried the key and the door opened. I looked around to see if there was a stairway to the apartment when I noticed light coming from under the door down a short hallway in the back. I knocked. "Mr. Jacoby." No answer. I tried the door. It opened. So I went into the room. Gave the room a quick once-over. It appeared to be some kind of workshop with manufacturing tools. Nothing unusual except one thing. In the dark corner of the room, sitting in a chair and slumped over, was a man I presumed to be Jacoby. He didn't stir a muscle. I went up to him and checked him out. Yep. Just as I suspected, he was dead. He was holding a package wrapped in foil and a red ribbon with a tag. I gingerly removed the package from his hands and placed them on a nearby table. It was heavy, much heavier than I would have thought. As I moved it, it gave off a muffled tinkle. Sounds like our missing jingle bell, I thought. Because of the cold and not wanting to leave fingerprints, I was wearing my gloves. I found out later that these probably saved my life. I examined Jacoby. There didn't appear to be a mark on him, so he wasn't shot or stabbed. Now, his hands were red, like they'd been severely sunburned. Now, how the hell did he manage that in the middle of a Chicago winter? He might have been strangled or poisoned, so I lifted up his head to examine him, and I got the shock of my life. There was dried blood on the lower part of his face and his shirt from his nose and his mouth. This is getting weirder and weirder. I went back to the package and read the tag. For the big man, do not open till Christmas. This was the item, all right. I thought about opening it to make sure when I noticed the foil wrapping. It wasn't tin or aluminum. It looked like lead. Then that little voice started screaming in the back of my mind, "Don't open it!" For once, I listened to that voice. I grabbed the package and headed out the door through the shop and into the cold, windy night. Back at the office, I called Kleineman's number and told him I have the item. He gave me an address for a house in Mount Prospect and told me to meet him there in a couple of hours. That voice was still nagging me. Just to be on the safe side, I made another call to someone who owed me favors. It was a good 20-mile drive, and it took me nearly the whole time to get there. It was a large house with a private drive and a large plot of land surrounded by trees. I pulled up and rang the door. Kleineman opened it.
"The big man is expecting you."
It was a big place and just as dark and deserted as Jacoby's shop. The little guy led me to a study off the main hall. There I met the big man. Big is putting it mildly. He must have been over 6 feet and looked like he weighed over 300 pounds. The room looked like an office or a study with some bookshelves and a bay window and a large fireplace. He was sitting behind a large mahogany desk in front of the bay window with a small table between me and the desk. On the other side, opposite the fireplace, there was another small table, and on it was a thick box with an open hinged lid and the stencil of a Christmas tree on the side. The room was a little chilly, and I had wished there would have been a fire on the fireplace. Later, I was glad there wasn't any.
Welcome, Mr. Romano. I believe that is the package you have retrieved for me.
Yeah, and you owe me 10 grand for the job.
Of course, sir. Of course. All in good time. If you'd be so kind as to set the item down there on the table. I see you're wearing gloves. How thoughtful of you, sir. Before we give you your remittance, I need you to open the package so that I may be sure that the item is the one I have requested. Please leave your gloves on. The item tarnishes easily.
I shrugged, "Suit yourself," and started unwrapping the package. It was right about the foil. It was heavy, a little thick and dull like lead. I lifted the lid, and there on a velvet cushion was a silver jingle bell. The big man stood up and gazed at it from across the desk.
Exquisite, is it not, sir?
Looks like a silver jingle bell. You can get 'em by the hundreds this time of year.
Not like this one, sir. Not like this one. And it's not silver. Now then, sir, if you would pick up the bell and place it in that box on the table near my desk.
Now that little voice in my head was screaming, "No!" Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the little guy was edging back away from the box as far as he could. The big guy was also backing up from the desk. "You know, if it's all the same to you, I'll just take my money and leave you two with your little Christmas ornament."
Kurt, deine Waffe!
I turned and saw the little guy pull out a Luger. He was so small he had to hold it with both hands. All I could do was raise mine.
Now, my good sir, I must insist. Carefully pick up the bell and place it in the box.
At that moment, a gust of wind blew out from the fireplace, and soot, black as the ace of spades, shot into the room, blinding all three of us. Once I got my eyes cleared, I saw two short figures dressed in black and miner's lamps on their heads. They clambered out of the fireplace, and each had a Tommy gun.
Nobody move!
Kleineman didn't listen and got off a shot. It hit high on the mantelpiece. One of the short guys let go with a burst from his heater. And Kleineman went down.
Next time someone tries something stupid, I'll plug you.
Big man and me just held up our hands. Another short figure came down the chimney dressed in a bulky suit and carrying a box on a handle. He starts waving the box slowly around the room, and it starts clicking. It really goes crazy when he points it at the package and yells up the chimney,
"It's exposed! Give me a minute to lock it down! If you two mugs want to live, stay back and don't move."
The short guy in the bulky suit sets the clicking box down, and out of his pocket he pulls out a set of large tongs with ribbons attached. He slowly approached the package with the tongs and lifted out the jingle bell as if it were an egg. He slowly walked it over to the table with the box. It jingled once, and he froze dead still. We all held our breath. After a few seconds, all of us tensely watching the bell, he gave a sigh of relief and continued to the box. We continued breathing. He gingerly placed the bell in the box, and then, using the tongs, he closed the lid. He went back to retrieve his clicking box. He first started waving it around me, and then the big man.
Good. It looks like you two mugs weren't stupid enough to touch that thing.
I'll thank my little voice later. The short guy walked back up to the fireplace and shouted up.
All clear, sir. It's secured.
Maybe now I'll find out what this is all about. Down the chimney, with the grace of someone who had done it 1,000,000 times, came the real big guy, looking almost exactly like the other big man. One of the short guys with the Tommy gun spoke up.
Kleineman got off a round as we came down. We had to shoot him.
Too bad. He was once a good helper before he went wrong.
He looked right at the big man.
Hello, Franz. Looks like you've been a very naughty boy.
Then he walks up to me and I said, "It's about time you guys showed up."
You can put your hands down now, Nick. You're safe.
What's going on around here? What is that thing?
It's a piece of a rare element called plutonium that was stolen from a laboratory of a Dr. Fermi at the University of Chicago.
Why is it so dangerous?
That might be a little difficult to explain. Let's just say that in sufficient quantities it could kill thousands in a matter of seconds.
Jesus.
Yes, Nick, you were quite fortunate tonight.
So who are these guys?
The one that was shot was Kurt Kleineman. He once worked for me. The other is Standartenführer Franz Grossman of the Security Service of Nazi Germany, and to my grave disappointment, a former Santa's helper.
The big man smiled a nasty grin, clicked his heels, and he gave a short bow.
Franz, I shudder to think what you had planned for that little item.
Let us say it would have made a very interesting Christmas with many more to come.
Take him away.
One of the short guys comes up to the big man and prods him up the chimney with the Tommy gun.
Nick, you've been a good boy this year, and I am grateful. You know, I might need your help occasionally. I doubt that Franz and his like are going to stop their mischief at any time soon. All right, boys, our work here is done. Let's clear out. We have a lot of work to do before tomorrow night.
He walked over to the fireplace, turned, and gave me a wink.
Merry Christmas.
And up the chimney he rose. Well, that's the end of my story. Over the next few years, I get a call from the big guy to help out with a caper occasionally. It don't pay well, but it's satisfying work. Well, I'll be seeing you around. Have a good Christmas with the family. I'll make sure it's a safe one.